Masking is mandatory in this space. To build community and connection, Rachel Rose and the Welcoming Committee invite you to gather in the courtyard at 11:30 a.m. after service for an in-person Sunday social. You can also join us for an online small group social at 12:15. You will find the Zoom link for the online social in this morning's email. Now please turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. And it's my pleasure to introduce a Within These Walls artist announcement this morning. Sarah Graham is the painter of the art you see all around you this month in July and August. Sarah, if you'll please stand. The name of the show is Love Letters, and I think you can see why. Each piece is a tribute to an idea or to natural or human life. The names of some of the paintings are I Go Among the Trees, Long River of Song, and The World Enters Us and Departs. Sarah lives near the Haw River in Pittsburgh and has been a park ranger at the Grand Canyon and a teacher. She gets up at 4 a.m. to paint for the quiet and freshness of morning, and because it is a time of heightened receptivity for her. As she says, the gift of the arts is that they bring us near. They help us dwell for a while in the vicinity of essence. On the little table at the back, opposite the coat closet, is a notebook with haiku, which a friend of hers has written for each painting. So I invite you to look at those poems and the art as you leave or come in today and in future weeks. And now I invite you to please rise in body or spirit for the singing of our opening hymn, Be Thou My Vision, which is number 20 in the gray hymnal. And for those joining online, the words to the hymns will appear both on the screen and can also be found in the online order of service. This morning's call to worship is a responsive reading entitled To Worship by Jacob Trapp. It is number 441 in the gray hymnal. I will lead the reading of the regular font, with the congregation responding and reading the italicized font. To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. Worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through the storm to the still, small voice within. Worship is a loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain. Worship is keeping fire within our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and through acts of love. Worship is the mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is inarticulate silence, yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment, open to the sky of the eternal. The words for our chalice lighting are by Christine Robinson. You will find them in the order of service. Please join me in reading them. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Child each week. On Sunday we'd go to church, pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. Now I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but find it where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm singing in a suite of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Holy now, holy now, everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament, I tell you it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. Made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Each week, we hold a time in our worship service for the sharing of significant joys and sorrows. If you have a personal joy or sorrow you would like to share, you are invited to come forward, place a stone in the water, speak your name into the microphone, and briefly share your joy or sorrow. We ask that you please be considerate when sharing any detailed personal information on behalf of another person. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust. Reverend Tom asked me to place this first stone this morning in memory of our beloved Minister Emeritus, the Reverend Charlie Cast. Charlie died peacefully this week at Duke Hospice in Durham. He was a gentle, humble, and wise soul who ministered to this congregation for the past 28 years. Later this summer, there will be a service to celebrate his life and ministry.
Good morning, I'm LaDonna Gray, and I have two joys. So our oldest son is going to be 8 years old on Tuesday, and because of that, my mother is actually in town from Florida, and she'll be here until next week.
Hi, my name is Adam Good. That is a stone of sorrow and joy. Our 15-year-old cat, Ollie, passed away yesterday. He was a big part of our life for 15 years. He is missed by me and my wife and our kids. He was a curious and mischievous soul, and we miss him and wish him curiosity and mischief on the other side.
Hi, my name is Katie Heineman, and I place this stone of joy and sorrow. The joy is Margaret Lilly, who was raised in this church, was married on Friday, courthouse wedding, they're having a big wedding next year. And so we wish her and her partner, Jen Headley, lots of happiness and love in the future. And the sorrow is that because of a COVID relapse, Chris could not be there for his daughter's wedding. And I think that was very hard for him. But there's another wedding next year, so.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Powell, and I put this stone in the water in remembrance of Lila Berry, who was instrumental in this church with our greeters and in the welcoming ministry for many, many years, and she just passed away this past week as well.
Good morning, I'm Alexa Adamo Valverde, and this is Ellie Adamo Valverde. And we placed the stone for joy that 12 years ago tonight at 12:46 a.m. I became a mother. And so please join me in wishing this one a happy 12th birthday.
This last stone is for all those joys and sorrows this morning that were unspoken, but that live in our hearts and are no less real.
Now is a time for meditation and prayer together. I would like you to be comfortable in your seat and sit up straight and take a deep breath. And I'm going to share some words before our silent meditation from Jacob Trapp. If it is language that makes us human, one half of language is to listen. Silence can exist without speech, but speech cannot exist without silence. Listen to the speech of others. Listen even more to their silence. To pray is to listen to the revelation of nature, to the meaning of events. To listen to music is to listen also to silence, and to find the stillness deepened and enriched. Take a deep breath. Our sung meditation hymn is number 89 in our gray hymnal. Come my way, my truth, my life. Good morning. I am Marian Hirsch, and I am your Director of Religious Education, and it's a great honor to be here today. And I feel very keenly the love of Charlie Cast with us today. I want to thank Mickey for singing Holy Now in the service. I love music and lots of different kinds of music. Rarely do I strongly dislike a piece of music. In fact, I can only think of 2 songs that have caused that reaction in me, and one of them, until very recently, was this song, Holy Now. This is a song that is very popular in Unitarian Universalism. It is often sung at worship services, and I have taken 2 UU classes where this song has been part of the curriculum. So I've heard it a lot. And in the past, every time I heard this song, I would grind my teeth and roll my eyes. Not this song again. The tune is fine, it's pretty enough, but the words, ugh. Every time I heard it, I thought, that isn't real. That's not how things are. That's phony. So imagine my surprise when I started to think about what music I wanted for this service, and this is the first song that immediately came to mind unbidden. I listened to it on YouTube just to make sure, and my eyes filled with tears. So this sermon is partly about how I went from disliking Holy Now to thinking that it would be the perfect song for this service. This sermon is also about how I continue to be surprised. I think I have things figured out. I think I understand myself, my past, what's important to me, and then boom, I realize I don't get myself at all. And since I'm well into middle age at this point, approaching elderhood, with gray hair and all, I should be wise at this point, right? It's a little unsettling, but still exciting to be learning important things and having epiphanies. So this spring, I had a big spiritual, I would say tectonic epiphany, and it happened in the Wellspring class. Some of you have heard of Wellspring, but I'm going to stop here and explain a little about it. Wellspring is a series of courses for Unitarian Universalists who are interested in exploring their spirituality much more deeply. We've been offering Wellspring here at the community church for over 10 years. Each class is a year long, and once you take the first one, then you can take other Wellspring classes. It requires reading and journaling, and it requires participants to commit to a daily spiritual practice, and strongly encourages its participants to have a spiritual director. The class meets twice a month, where the participants share their reflections. It's a deep listening group. So, it makes sense that if I were going to have an epiphany, it might be in Wellspring. So this is what happened. In Wellspring, each of us is asked to make a presentation about one of our spiritual practices. And usually in a class, I'm the first one to volunteer to make presentations. But this year, I was reluctant. Finally, near the end of the year, I was the last one who hadn't volunteered. And our co-leader, Paige Smith, asked me if I would be willing to prepare a presentation for the next session. I've tried a number of daily spiritual practices and found them helpful, but I had not found the one perfect practice. And over the years in Wellspring, I had already shared about all the practices I had tried. I was fresh out of practices to share. I had already shared my practice of presence in nature, where I made a commitment to go outside and sit quietly in nature for 11 minutes each day. I had already shared my Lenten practice of reading all the Psalms, about my Lectio Divina, where I read all the readings in the back of the hymnal, my gratitude practice, my prayer practice, my tiny meditation practice of 4 minutes a day. All helpful and useful, but I didn't have any more to share. I explained my reluctance to Paige, and she said, I think you should share about your Sabbath practice. And I said, really? And she said, yes, in that definite, encouraging way that Paige has. So I agreed, and I'm really glad I did. I felt surprisingly shy about talking about my Sabbath practice to anyone, even in Wellspring. First, Sabbath isn't a daily practice, it's only weekly, so I wasn't sure if it even counted. Secondly, I am aware that many people do not have the luxury of resting for a whole day of not working. I couldn't have managed to have a Sabbath as a working parent of 3 children. For working parents, there are no days off. I didn't even try having a Sabbath until my children were all grown. I also felt shy because I wasn't sure why I had been so keen to have a Sabbath in the first place. Sabbath seems like a very old-fashioned thing to do. Do we heretical Unitarian Universalists get to dabble in these serious religious practices of our Jewish and Christian forebears? So this is the thing about our faith, Unitarian Universalism. One of our fundamental tenets is that we believe that we each have wisdom to share, little pieces of the truth. One of the best things about being a part of a faith community, of this faith community, is being here nurtures the emerging wisdom. This quiet time that we have in worship each week, in our deep listening groups like Wellspring and Chalice Circles, in our ministry team meetings where we share joys and sorrows, as we quilt and click and hike and paint and clean and repair. We are having tender conversations where we listen to each other and nurture each other's wisdom. There are true things inside of each of us that only emerge with a quiet invitation and compassionate listening. I should stop being shocked every time I figure out something important at church, but it is always a surprise, an unexpected joy. Most of you probably know that I am a defensive pessimist. I try never to expect anything good to happen, ever. So almost always my joy is unexpected. So when I started thinking about my Sabbath practice, knowing that I was going to share it in Wellspring with people who I know would listen with love and patience to my bumbling, I figured out all kinds of things about my Sabbath and about my whole life. Even though I love my Sabbath practice, and it's something I do every week with devotion for almost 4 years, this spring is the first time I have ever given serious thought to why it works, why I wanted to do it in the first place, really anything about it. We human beings are very weird sometimes. I started a Sabbath practice on August 31st, 2018, when I committed to observe a Sabbath, simply a rest from work. I chose Fridays, and I started planning for it about 6 months in advance, because it isn't easy to step away from work in this 24/7 world of late-stage capitalism. I thought it wouldn't be easy to step away from work because I love my work. It makes me happy. I like to think about work all the time. And any of you who have ever been in a social gathering with me know that basically all I do is talk about church. The funny thing is that it turned out to be so easy. Since August 31st, 2018, I have rarely done any work on a Friday. I'm not even tempted. After obsessively working every free moment for over 20 years, how did that just happen? Why was it so easy? It is weird that I just changed 1/7 of my life, easily and with basically no reflection. It helped that on the first Sabbath that I tried, August 31st, 2018, my spiritual director called me and reminded me not to be a perfectionist about it. She knows me so well. The Sabbath is a process. It is not an accomplishment. As it turns out for me, taking a Sabbath hasn't really been about rest, though I will say I am sure that it has been good for me to rest. Working all the time is a sure path to burnout and not good for your soul. So the rest has been restorative. For me, the Sabbath has been about longing for a religious life. It is funny to be 58 years old and just now realize that I want a religious life. And even funnier, because almost everyone who knows me probably could have told me that I was longing for a religious life if I had just asked. What I love about being at church is that it feels religious. And I wanted my whole life to feel that religious. I wanted to have a Sunday feeling every day. So this is another important place where my spiritual director, Karen, comes in. So remember I said that in Wellspring it is highly recommended that you get a spiritual director? I was nervous about going into spiritual direction because I had tried spiritual direction unsuccessfully 3 times previously, starting in my 20s, which I've only just recently realized, because as it turns out, I have been longing for a religious life my whole life and just hadn't noticed. So I didn't have any high hopes or anything. I'm a defensive pessimist after all. So when I started spiritual direction with Karen, I told her about my spiritual journey, as one does with one's spiritual director. I told her about the transformative experiences of God that I had in my 20s, which have remained central my whole life. I told her that I wanted the rest of my life to count, to be meaningful. I don't even know everything I told her, lots of important things. And after she listened to me deeply, she said the following surprising thing. She said, I think what you are yearning for is intimacy with God. When I first heard that, I had a rush of emotions. Yikes. No, that can't be it. What does that even mean? Intimacy? I'm not even sure what that word means, and I'm nervous about it. God, also. Does she even know what God means to me? The problem with the word God is it seems like a useful word that means something specific with a definition, but actually it's a mysterious word. And we don't use the word God very often because our collective faith is not about God. What unifies us is not a theology about God, but a commitment to building a beloved community. The only Unitarian court theologian, Francis de Bede, is said to have said, we do not have to believe alike to love alike. That we are committed as a faith to deeds, not creeds. Some have said unkindly about Unitarian Universalists that we are allergic to God. I do not think that is what is happening. There is a gentle reticence in our congregations. We do not have to believe alike to love alike, so we are often quiet about our personal theology, making space for a variety of beliefs and experiences. We signify by our reticence that many beliefs are welcome. But when we get into deep listening groups, where we listen to each other's deepest truths, then those of us for whom God is a useful word share deeply about that freely. One should never mistaken our gentle reticence about God in public spaces as a hostility, but one should understand it as an understanding that theology is deeply personal. We live in a culture where people make public declarations about God for everyone instead of just for themselves. So we are rigorously circumspect in our public declarations. So right from the very beginning, my spiritual director, after listening deeply to me, noted 1, God is very important to me, and 2, perhaps I am seeking intimacy with this God. And I've been thinking about this for more than 5 years, slowly letting the truth of that in. And as I started to prepare for the Wellspring presentation, I could see that this has been true in my life for a long time in ways I had not connected. I had this intense experience of God in my 20s. I can describe this experience as a deep knowing that I was beloved in some profound and fundamental way, that everyone is beloved in the same way, and that my purpose was to be loving as I could be. This experience is not rational, but it changed my life and grounded me. And I've called this experience God because I regard the word God as a nickname, a shorthand that stands for this mystical, cataclysmic experience. I have read that people have often had a similar unitive experience when they take psychedelics. People use all kinds of words to describe this experience. It's profound, and words don't really do it justice. So maybe that is why I wanted to go to seminary in my 20s. And maybe that's why I also visited a convent in my 20s and seriously considered being a nun. Maybe that is why I became a religious educator. Maybe that is why I have been longing to have a Sabbath practice for years without understanding why I was drawn to it. I wonder if I knew intuitively that observing a Sabbath would facilitate this religious life I had longed for and intimacy with God, for lack of a better word. Taking a Sabbath has made all my days, my life, religious in a way that it never has been before. Why? I'm not sure why. Is that what the original purpose of the Sabbath as commanded in Hebrew Scripture? To heighten the awareness of the sacred nature of all our days. Keeping the Sabbath is one of the 10 Commandments, and I've always been suspicious of that patriarchal, vengeful, bossy desert god that is presented to us in culture. But religious practices are mysterious, and they don't mean just one thing. And religious traditions are deeper and truer than the least enlightened interpretation of them. There is a tradition in Judaism of regarding what are called commandments and other rules as mitzvahs, as blessings, as gifts, as ways into a more grounded life. That fits for me. The Sabbath is not a rule or a challenge, but rather a gift or a blessing. In the New Testament, there are a number of what are called Sabbath controversies, where the Pharisees kept catching Jesus and his followers for working on the Sabbath. Jesus was opposed to following religious rules in a performative and shallow way. He said in the midst of one controversy, the Sabbath was made for humans, not humans for the Sabbath. I love how wily and fierce Jesus was in calling out rigid religiosity of his day. And that statement, the Sabbath was made for humans and not the humans for the Sabbath, is a callback to that idea that the Sabbath could be a gift, could be a rich practice, not a rule to be followed for its own sake. All I do know is that for me, the Sabbath practice has been a North Star. It has reoriented my life so that it feels religious nearly all the time. An intimacy with the holy that I have been longing for my whole life. I wanted everything to feel holy, and now it does, just like the song. And it is in this loving community of deep and compassionate listening that I have been encouraged to grow and learn and deepen in my humanity. And for that, I am very grateful. Amen. Blessed be.
We will now take an offering that allows us to exercise generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-sustaining church and its many ministries. Your gifts will be most gratefully received. Baskets are being sent through the congregation during the offertory hymn. Please note that there's also a QR code in your order of service for electronic gifts. Using your camera phone, the QR code will take you to the online offertory page.
Take these hands, turn them into light beams. Take these feet, turn them into your shoes. Take this life, make it everything it might be. Oh, give me courage walking in the dark to help me choose a lighted path. May my back be the wings of a dove. May my knees learn to bend. May my heart know the depth of your love, and may this love never end. Take these hands, turn them into light beams. Take these feet, turn them into your shoes. Take this life, make it everything it might be. Oh, give me courage walking in the dark to help me choose that lighted path. May my ears take pleasure in silence. May my mind learn to feel. May my eyes come to recognize the shape and the contour of the real. Take these hands, turn them into light beams. Take these feet, turn them into your shoes. Take this life, make it everything it might be. Oh, give me courage walking in the dark. Oh, help me choose a lighted path.
Our closing words from our hymnal are these lovely words from Theodore Parker that I always hear. Be ours a religion like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith, divine living. And now let us stand in body and or spirit and sing our closing hymn in the great hymnal number 271, Come Down, O Love Divine. Thank you, Vaughan Williams.
standing in body or spirit, you will find the words for extinguishing the chalice in your order of service. Please join me in reading them if you wish to do so. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We'd like to take a moment to acknowledge all those who contributed to this morning's service, including Keith Sawyer and Mickey Reed for the wonderful music. And now it's time for us to sing Shalom. If you'd like to hold hands with those around you, please indicate that by just letting your hands fall to either side. If not, you may cross your hands over your chest.